Alright, it's Henry again, and this is my review of my 1:100 scale Cancer. This is one of the marine mobile suits from Gundam Wing, and probably the smallest and simplest entry into my Oz project. Has little articulation, it's a relatively small mobile suit, and no weapons or accessories at all. Well, I mean, it has torpedoes and the claws, but it's not like it holds a beam rifle or anything. So anyway, this is what it looks like, completely unpainted. It's missing a few parts here. I got some vents that are going to go on top of there. Take it off this action base. And then obviously the camera eye is not installed yet, but I'll do all that after painting. So it's got a little bit of articulation in the shoulders and what I guess you would equate to hip joints down here. And the claws can open, so anyway. I actually really like the way it turned out. I think it looks pretty nice, at least unpainted anyway. I may change my opinion once I paint him. So anyway, let's go ahead and put a coat of paint on this guy and continue on with the review from there. And after a couple of days of painting, this is what Cancer ends up looking like. As you can see, I went with the red color scheme. There's also a blue Cancer, but I believe that was mostly used by the Earth Sphere Alliance. But most of the time, 99% of the time in Gundam Wing, when you saw a Cancer, it was in this red color scheme, so that's the one I decided to go with. Used a clear blue action base too. I figured that one would be the most appropriate. And the decals, some of them are from Master Grade Victory Gundam, some of them are just generic caution markings. And then I used my Oz decal here on the back skirt. Here on the chest I used my Oz 08 MMS Cancer serial number, as well as here along the back, so it'll be visible in Submersible Mode. So anyway, the pre-shading I did a little bit more subtle than I usually do. Cancer is just such a bright red, and seeing as how I I highlight on top of the red parts with pink, I didn't want a pink Cancer, so I kept the pre-shading and the highlighting to a minimum. So, I mean, it's there, but it's really, really subtle. And then, honestly, this guy wasn't very difficult to paint at all. I mean, he's basically just red, white, gray, and just the yellow on the fins on the shoulders. And then he really didn't take very long to paint, like I said, just a couple of days. So, not a very difficult project at all. It will definitely by far be the easiest entry into the Oz project, and probably the quickest scratch build I'll ever do. So, anyway, let's get down to articulation. Now, the shoulders I've got on these Revoltech joints. Let me pull this out so I can show it to you. There we go. Now, if you've ever had a Revoltech action figure, you'll immediately know what these joints are and what they can do. These aren't actual Revoltech brand joints. They're made by Hobby Base, but they're practically the same thing. So I use those for the shoulders. So the arms can obviously rotate 360, and they've got a little bit of in and out movement. Not a whole lot, because this white vent up here kind of gets in the way of this piece of armor right here. So they don't have a lot of outward movement, but they can go inward a good bit. And then here at the claws can rotate like so. The little propeller can move on its own and spin around. And then the claws can open up about, maybe not quite 90 degrees, a little bit less than 90 degrees, but anyway, they can open up, put some detail on the insides of the claws, just some little lines going across in there. So that's that. This little camera eye cover, as you can see, is moving around. I did that gimmick with a magnet. Basically, I've got a small magnet on the underside of this guy Then I've got another small magnet here and a larger, more powerful magnet up under this camera eye. And you can put that on there and it sticks into place. And honestly, I'm a little bit disappointed with it because it doesn't, despite using a larger magnet up under that camera eye, it doesn't stay in place nearly as well as I would like. I mean, it stays on there, but I think maybe because this camera eye is so smooth and glossy, the cover just kind of moves around too much. But for up here on the forehead, it stays in place perfectly fine, but just on top of that camera eye, it doesn't really stay as well as I'd like. But that's okay, because I'm going to have it up here 99% of the time anyway. The last bit of articulation is down here on the hydrojet engines. They're on little ball joints, so they can go forward and back a little bit. They can go up and down a little bit. They can rotate ever so slightly. They don't have a lot of movement, but that's more to the design of the mobile suit than the joints I used. And up here, up under the back skirt, I did a little bit of detailing down there, you can see. And then up inside these little hydrojet engines, you can see I did little vents in there and on the bottom as well for the water to go in the front and out the back. So anyway, now Cancer actually does have a transformation, although it's so simple I hesitate even calling it a transformation. Cancer has what they call a submersible mode. It's really easy. Basically, all you gotta do is flip the little camera eye cover closed, rotate the arms forward, and there you go. You're done. Submersible mode. This is basically just the way Cancer would travel underwater when it wanted to go a little bit faster. And then it would transform into mobile suit mode just for, combat and for, recovery operations, things like that. And I fiddle it around with my action base here a little bit. Unfortunately, there wasn't a real way I could attach them to the action base in submersible mode without just like drilling a hole in Cancer and using the action base peg. But luckily enough, he's so front heavy that if you've ever had one of those old toys as a kid where it's like the eagle and it's weighted on the front and it balances on the end of its beak, that's kind of how Cancer works in submersible mode. It just balances on the action base. Although, having him displayed this way, I would be incredibly paranoid about him falling off, because the slightest little vibration he's going to fall off. But for the purposes of this video, it works just fine. Plus, I plan on displaying him in mobile suit mode anyway. So, there is your Cancer submersible mode. And just for a couple of size comparisons, here's my 1:100 scale Cancer next to my previous Oz Project kit, the 1:100 scale Leo. So as you can see, Cancer is a small mobile suit, but it's not that small. It's almost as big as an average mobile suit. Of course, then again, I'll mention in the work in progress video that my Cancer's a little bit smaller than he should be by a few millimeters, almost a whole centimeter shorter. It's supposed to be 16.9 meters long in submersible mode, meaning from the end of the crotch to the end of the claw when they're moved forward. And I think mine was just about 16, or 16 centimeters anyway, in 1:100 scale. Anyway, roughly 1:100 scale. And here is Cancer, of course, next to the cure for Cancer, which is tall geese. So that about does it for my review of my 1:100 scale Cancer. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the way this guy turned out. I actually think he looks really, really nice. He's not perfect. In fact, my one real complaint about him is these claws don't look so hot. I think the way I designed the pegs and the holes inside them was the right way to articulate them. I just wish I had taken the time to line them up more precisely, because they are a little bit crooked. I mean, it's not too bad, but it's still noticeable. But other than that, that's really my only complaint about Cancer. Other than that, I'm really happy with the way he turned out. I like the colors. I think my panel line scribing was actually relatively clean compared to some of my earlier work. He fits on the action base relatively well, except for in Submersible Mode, obviously. And the articulation is as good as it can be. Just given Cancer's design, I don't think the articulation could be much better than it is. And I think the decals turned out better. Decals turned out a lot better than they did on my two Leos. Didn't have very much silvering at all on Cancer. I made sure to make the decals nice and work out those air bubbles. So overall, I'm really happy with the way it turned out. This is a quick entry to the Oz project, probably the only quick entry into the Oz project. And next up on my agenda is, for the Oz project anyway, is the 1:100 scale Pisces. So, that about does it for this review, and with that, I'll see you guys next time. Fools!